Alright guys, we're back. Welcome to part 2. I'm going to start looking at the troops. Excuse me, I've got a really bad cough on, guys. You're going to have to forgive me. Troops is a really small section in the Sisters of Battle Codex. The only unit in here is the Battle Sister Squads. Really cheap. 125 points, 10 sisters, including the squad leader. You get your power armor, your bolt gun, bolt pistol, frag grenades, crack grenades. And special rules, got Axe of Faith, Light of the Emperor, and Shield of Faith. Looking at weapon options, again it's pretty standard. Heavy bolters, flamers, multi-melters, melter guns, storm bolters. Born Battle Sister can take a Simulacrum Imperialis. This is a pretty handy piece of war gear, which can also be taken on the Celestians, which I forgot to mention in the previous video. Basically that lets you reroll your Axe of Faith attempt, which can come in handy, but it's pretty expensive. It's 20 points, so you're sort of paying the price there. More often than not, you're going to get your Axe of Faith anyway, so try and stay away from spending too heavily on your simulacrums, unless you're really desperate to get the Axe of Faith off. To try and avoid them, because you can end up spending lots and lots of points on them. And again, same weapon upgrades on the squad leader, Sister Superior, power weapon, combi weapon, condemner bolt gun, plasma pistol, metal bombs. Now, I mentioned at the start of the previous video about how some Acts of Faith are terribly imbalanced. Light of the Emperor is one of them. Battle Sisters have an Act of Faith called Light of the Emperor. Now, Light of the Emperor can be used in any of the phases. It's the only one that can be used in the movement phase, the shooting phase, or the assault phase. And it can be used more than once in each of the phases. It's the only one that is an exception to the rule. It can't be used twice in the same phase, but if you fail it in the shooting phase, you can then attempt it again in the assault phase. In each phase it has, obviously, a different benefit. In the movement phase, now this is why this Act of Faith is broken, in my opinion. If you use Light of the Emperor in the movement phase, the unit auto rallies regardless of any restrictions. So if there's one sister left and there's a unit within 6 inches, that doesn't matter. Normally she'd run away, but like the Emperor, she auto rallies and moves 3 inches and then acts as normal, which is horrible. Like I was saying, if you could just keep rolling that until you got a sister unit back, that could win you so many games. You know, if you ran back off an objective, you just use all your faith points until that unit rallies and gets back on the objective. So it's really nice if you're playing sisters, but as I've used it, this Act of Faith several times, it's just horrible for the opponent. When I was playing a game with Grey Knights, one of my sister units fell back to 1 inch of the table edge. Thought it was going to be a kill point. We were playing kill points games at the time. They were 1 inch off, so next turn they'd gone. Started a movement phase, they passed a light of battle, regrouped, killed the Purifier unit. That's just how effective this Act of Faith is. It's probably the best one in the book. If you use Light of the Emperor in the shooting phase or the assault phase, you get to reroll ones on your to hit rolls, which again is really nice. However, when I've used this Act of Faith, past it in the shooting phase, shooting my melter guns, I've always rolled 2s. If there was a 1 I could reroll it, 3+ I'd hit, I always roll a 2. So, I mean, Battle Sisters, I really like these squads. The way I take mine, I'm going to get a little, since this section's a little thin, we're going to talk a little bit about tactics. I take 3 units of 10 Battle Sisters at 1500 points, 2 with double melter, and 1 with double flamer, just to get a balance in there. This is going to be a tournament army, so it's got to be fairly balanced. Melters are great, but if there's 100 orcs on the board, having 2 melters isn't going to do much. Now 2 flamers, it's a different story. And you always want to mount your sisters and rhinos, obviously, regardless of anything. Battle Sisters can take up to 20 in a unit. But having 20 foot sloggers, in my opinion, really isn't worth it, because there's no benefit for taking more. It's not like every 10 models can take a melter, every 5 models can take a melter. It's 1 can take a melter, 1 more can take a melter. That's it. So if you take 20, you're still only getting 2 melters. So in my opinion, take 10, no upgrades other than 2 melter guns, and stick them in a rhino. keep the Rhino bare. Keeps them nice and cheap. 180 points for that unit. 170 if you take 2 flamers. And they'll save your skin so many times. They're so reliable, just like Marines. But obviously it's slightly more reliable to hit if you get your Axe of Faith off. They're a really, really great unit, and they form a fantastic backbone to the Sisters army, which again, when I start demonstrating some tactics, some plays, you'll see why, how you use them, and why they're so important to the army. Even though they're just your troops, you know, they are so important. And obviously dedicated transports, you have the Rhino. Humble Rhino is actually really, really good value in the Sisters Codex. It's 35 points as normal. You lose the Searchlight, but you gain that 6 up invulnerable, which in my opinion is a fantastic swap. Searchlights are great in Dawn of War, but that's the only time they're really useful, whereas 6 up invulnerable save as well as repair, like a normal Rhino, is brilliant. In my opinion, probably the most cost effective transports you can take in any codex across the board, apart from maybe a drop pod. And then of course, my favourite transport, the Immolator. It sounds cool, the model looks cool. Again, smoke launches like a Rhino, Shield of Faith, so it's like you souped up Razorback. They are 65 points, so you do pay a pretty hefty price tag in terms of a 6 model transport. But it comes with a twin-linked heavy flamer, so if you are taking, fighting orcs and nids quite a lot, keep the twin-linked heavy flamer on it, it'll work wonders. Or you can take a twin-linked heavy bolter with Inferno bolts for free, which Inferno bolts let you reroll to wound. Or my personal choice is the twin-link multi-melter. I like to get lots of melter shots in my army. With all the mech running around at the moment, that might change with 6, but we're not there yet. So with all the mech running around, more melter shots for me makes me a happy person. And of course you get the standard vehicle upgrades, Searchlight, Dozer Blade, Storm Bolter, HK Missile, and extra armor. Same on the Rhino. Standard stuff there, guys. Don't need to go into too much detail. It's more about how you use those vehicles running on the table, which we'll get into when I get to the, I keep saying this, when we get further down the line, we get to actually demonstrating some tactics. So we'll go on to the fast attack section. I might get the heavy support in as well in this section. We'll see how time goes. So first, in the fast attack section, is you've got your Seraphim. Now Seraphim are nice. I like the Seraphim, I like the models, I like the fluff. I like the theory behind them, but practically they're just a little too expensive for my liking. They've got the double pistol rule, so they can have lots and lots of shots. They can take, 2 of them can take 2 hand flamers, 2 of them can take 2 infernal pistols. So essentially you can get 4 melter shots out of this unit. But you pay a hefty price tag. 2 infernal pistols is 30 points. So you're looking at 60 points for 4 melter shots. There's cheaper ways of getting that in the army, trust me. Trust me. Oh, throat's really sore. Again, standard upgrades on the squad leader, chainsword, power sword, eviscerator, plasma pistol, melter bombs. The nice thing about the Seraphim squad is they get to re-roll their active faith attempts. It's in the special rules. We're going to look at that active faith now. The active faith is called the Emperor's Deliverance. This active faith is used in the shooting phase. If successful, the unit shooting attacks reroll any failed to wound rolls until the end of the phase. Now that's pretty nice, but again, they're paying the points for that, and they also pay the points for that Angelic Visage, which lets them reroll the failed acts of faith and the failed invulnerable saves. So that 6+ invulnerable gets even better on these guys because you can reroll it, so your 1 in 6 becomes a 2 in 6, so you pretty much become a Terminator in terms of invulnerable save. But the only time I can see Seraphim being useful is pretty much being wound counters for the Saint, because again, the harassing units, combat units, you need to get them in closer than pistols, which means they're probably going to get countercharged, and strength and toughness 3 means they're not going to last long. Excuse me, guys. The only bad side is if you take the Saint with Seraphim and the Seraphim run away, the Saint's running off with them. Remember, she doesn't get fearless if she's with that unit. And since that's the only way to get rid of the Saint, because she's been FAQ'd that even removes from play abilities don't work anymore, you don't want the Saint in a unit ever, 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 ever. Cannot stress that enough. The Saint goes on her own in every battle, otherwise she'll run off the board and you'll lose her. Guaranteed. So that's the Seraphim. Again, I'm just going to reiterate, I really like the unit. It's really overpriced and really impractical compared to other choices in the book. So I'd stay away from it if you want to make a competitive Sisters army, in my opinion. Again, I've had a bit of time to look at the book in action and got a lot of other people's opinions, and it seems to sort of concur with what I'm saying. So the other fast attack choice that we have with Sisters is the Dominion Squad. Now the Dominion Squad is probably my favourite unit in the book. It has to be said. Along with the Saint, the Dominions are brilliant. The way to describe Dominions, I guess, kind of like Chosen from the Chaos Codex would be a way to describe them. You can take lots and lots of special weapons. If you take 10 of them, you can take 4 melters. You can take 5, you can take 2. The way I take them is a squad of 5 with 2 melter guns and then a combi melter on the Sister Superior. So you get 3 melter shots from the Dominion squad. Then you put them in an immolator with a multi-melter. So basically you've got 4 mobile melters, which is brilliant. Obviously one you can only fire once, but I normally go against taking combi weapons unless it's a flamer, because in my experience you always miss that one shot, always. But the Dominions have a really, really nice active faith that on a 4+, they can... Sorry, my mind's just gone completely blank there, guys. You make the weapons twin linked, which is really, really nice. So yeah, basically they pass their active faith, they get twin linked weapons, so that taking that combi weapon, the melters, makes them really reliable tank hunters, really, really reliable tank hunters, which is nice. I really like it. And they also have scouts, which is brilliant. You put them in an immolator, you can scout forward. I think if the unit's got it, they can transfer it to the transport. I'll have to look that up in the rulebook. I don't know where mine is at the moment, so I'm not going to do it. I think that's how it works. I think you can transfer it to your transport as long as you start inside it. So basically put them in an immolator, you get that 12-inch move before the game starts, get your multi-melter in range really nice and early. It's a really, really fantastic unit and I really love it. The Dominions are great and nice and cheap as well. Take 5 of them, 3 melters, immolator, multi-melter, 180 points. You can't go wrong with that unit. They'll kill. You know, you can point and click at anything, they'll probably kill it. Okay, so we'll go into the heavy support. This is obviously the last section in the Codex. Again, it's pretty small Codex. There's not a lot to choose from. It's the only bad thing about the Codex is a lot of the builds tend to be very, very samey. A few tweaks here and there, but the standard core of the army is always the same. Again, they don't have a huge model range anyway. It would have been nice for them to get a proper release, get a nice proper Codex, plastic models, a full miniatures range. Maybe that's something down the line in 6th. We'll have to wait. But again, we'll talk about this in a second. The heavy support section starts with the Retributor unit, or Retributor squad. Obviously being in heavy support, these chicks are basically your Devastator units, your Havocs. Although they don't have the similar array of weapons, they can only take heavy bolters, multi-melters or heavy flamers. So basically you can kit them out to take on pretty much any job that you need them to. You know, you can take the heavy flamers to be anti-infantry, anti-horde, you can take multi-melters to be anti-mech, you You can take heavy bolters to be a bit mix of both. You can trouble light armor. You can start making marines take lots of saves, things like that. Nice and cheap. I mean, heavy bolters 5 points, monk melt is 10 points, heavy flamers are 20 points. Same options on the squad leader as the other units. I'm no point going through them again. The best thing about the Retributor squad is Act of Faith. Their Act of Faith, if they pass it, all the units have rending. Now if you imagine 4 rending heavy flamers or 4 rending heavy bolters, you start seeing why these chicks are being more and more incorporated into armies. They're fairly cheap. I mean, let me just quickly work it out. You can take 5 with 4 heavy bolters for 85 points, and those heavy bolters could be rending. Unfortunately, I've just had a really nasty thought about the rending heavy flamers, but you're looking at 145 points there, and you don't want to get close. Well, you have to get close, and you can't really. But 85 points for 4 unit with 4 heavy bolters, and there's a chance that they can be rending. Really, really nice, cheap way of getting some pretty reliable firepower in there. I like the Retributors, they're a good unit. I don't personally use them. I've tried them out. I just find them too vulnerable. Tends to end up being an easy kill point for your army to get, for your opponent to get. So, as nice as they are, I mean, if you can use them and you've got a good tactic that works, then by all means take them. But myself personally, I'm going to avoid them for the time being until I find an effective way to use them. Now, of course, it is the famous or infamous, whichever way you want to look at it, the Exorcist. 135 points, D6, Strength 8, AP 1 missiles. I'm sort of flabbergasted by how good the Exorcists are. I don't know where to begin describing how good the Exorcists are. I take 3, so all my heavy support units have gone with Exorcists. Kind of bland, but when you use them, you know, even 3 is not enough. I'd take 9 if I could. That's how good these units are. Especially because considering they've got a Predator chassis, so they're armor 13 on the front, so they're not even easy to kill. I can't remember exactly from the old book, but I think they were armor 12, or might have even been armor 11. They might have been a Rhino hull. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong there. I don't remember the book, so apologies. But now they're armor 13 in the front, so you just park your ass against the back edge of that board and fire missiles, because you've got a turret on the top, and that's all you need to say about Exorcists. They strike fear into all my opponents because they know all it takes is a good roll, 4+, 50-50 shot, you know, and I've got 4 Strength 8 AP1 missiles, shreds light armor. They start even scaring you know, medium to high armor, and your Terminators panic as well. It's just great in any situation. And I take 3 of them, so on a turn I should be averaging 10.5 missiles, so 11 missiles from 3, which is brilliant. I always recommend taking at least 2 Exorcists, and maybe the Retributor squad, but I'd recommend 3. At least 2, but you're better off with 3 in my opinion. And last but definitely not least, because these are very interesting units, we have the Penitent Engine. Now the Penitent Engine is your Death Company Dreadnought, to find a comparison with something else. Weapon skill 4, strength 10 with Dreadnought plus combat weapons. Now this is interesting, D6 plus 1 attacks. Yeah, I know, right? Front armor 11, side 11, rear 10. They have Battle Frenzy, Rage, Unstoppable Rampage, Shield of Faith. I'm just going to double check what all these rules mean because they're all pretty similar. See, this is why having all these White Dwarf things is so annoying, because they're all separate. Okay, Unstoppable Rampage. Penitent Engines ignore any crew shaken and crew stun results. Yeah, that's not great at all, is it? Remember, these things are 85 points a pop, and you can take them in squads of 3. So in a legal army you can take 9 penitent engines. Battle Frenzy. For every unsaved wound a penitent engine inflicts in combat, the penitent engine immediately makes an additional attack. These attacks do not generate further additional attacks in the same way. Oh great, so they get d6 plus 1 attacks, and when they kill you they get more attacks. And you can take 3 of them in a unit. So you've got 3d6 plus 3 attacks at strength 10 that shred you and kill you again. Instantly in my mind some amazing builds have just flashed through my head because they got twin-linked heavy flamers. I'd love to see an army with 9 penitent engines and 3 sister repentia units, because that would be brilliant. Penitent engines are great, however they do suffer from rage. So a clever opponent can have them chasing around the board all day long and they'll never get there. Which is all, your problem with your death company. They're great, but if you can, bait them off with a land raider, they'll never catch him. But the penitent engine is really nice. Just reading that and seeing the 3d6 plus 3 attacks, which can generate more attacks, that's pretty horrible, and I would not like to be on the receiving end of that. So that is Codex breakdown. We've got a whole bunch of war gear items here. If there's anything in here that is different, I'll let you know. So we've got the Blessed Banner, which is basically your company standard. Chainsword standard. Chirurgeon's tools, which is your apothecary. Combi weapons is standard. We've got the Condemner bolt gun, which is 24-inch range, strength 5, AP dash, assault 1. And it has the Psyshock rule, which basically means that if a Psyker takes an unsaved wound from the Condemner bolt gun, it has to take a Perils of the Warp test as well. So basically you can inflict 2 wounds. That's not bad, that's pretty good. Eviscerators, which are power fists, but you get an additional d6 round of penetration, which is nice. So you've got strength 6 plus 2d6 for your penetration against vehicles. That's nice. Frag grenades, Lord Hailers is what I mentioned when I was talking about the ecclesiastical priests and Archconfessor Kirinov. If you pass an act of faith on a roll of a 6, you get a single faith point back, so you basically get a free kill point. Neural whips, strength 8, and roll against the leadership rather than the toughness. And you've got a Rosarius, which is like a chaplain, 4 plus invulnerable save. The Simulacrum Imperialis lets you reroll your acts of faith, and Storm Shield is a Storm Shield. So that's the Codex gone through start to finish. Just like to show you that picture there. That is the Forge World Exorcist. I have 3 of those. I prefer those ones to the ridiculous looking organ ones, if that's my opinion. I think it looks ridiculous. The Forge ones are really nice. So just to quickly summarise, probably 2-3 minutes. The Codex is good. I like the balance. It was written by Cruddas and Ward, so you can really see the difference in styles. You kind of have the spectrum of Cruddas, where things are either amazing or rubbish, and then you've got kind of the egomaniac that is Matt Ward, that wants to make everything ridiculous, and you can clearly tell that between them they've broken the Saint, and some of the rules in there completely out of whack, which makes for an interesting play style. I mean, when I first played it, I was very inexperienced, very naive, and yet still managed to draw in my first game using them. It's not an easy army to play. It's fairly forgiving because you've got the power armor there. But once transports are gone, and once the sisters are out in the open, you start taking hits. The sisters start dying just through sheer number of wounds. So it's a fairly fairly reliable codex, but it has to be played well to get the best out of it, which is what we're going to talk about now. We've done the codex, so we'll properly start talking some tactics in the next video. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Okay, that's the codex walkthrough, now for some tactics. Okay guys.